man, what a stuffy, just dickhead Cormier really is. I think if you really get to know Daniel Cormier, he's really not.
Yeah, I was not.
So here's what went down in Thailand. Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier got thrown together for this Russian reality show. And when the camera stopped rolling, Jones absolutely unloaded on his longtime rival, called him a complete jerk and every name in the book, making it crystal clear their decade-long hatred isn't going anywhere.
So last season I was with Diaz, I was with Masvidal, and I was with Yoel Romero. It was so much fun, it was lighthearted, it was cool, we made good memories, we hung out with each other. This season is against Daniel Cormier. Oh man, what a stuffy, just dickhead Cormier really is. I think if you really get to know Daniel Cormier, he's really not.
Yeah, I was not. He was not.
He's an asshole. He was an asshole. I mean, he didn't really connect with any of the fighters here. He's just an asshole. I tried to make peace with him many times, and he made it very clear that he wants to be enemies for the rest of his life because how lucrative it is.
The whole thing blew up online because it proves what everyone suspected. These two legends still can't be in the same room without everything turning toxic. Even after all these years since they stopped throwing hands at each other.
You look at the way that he treats his staff members. He brought like 10 yes men out with him and literally, go get me my water. Where's my this? Why is that this? It was just, he just bosses guys around. You know, and the times we weren't filming, he wasn't very sociable with the people on set. He's just a kid. I think people that really work with him knows that.
This footage everyone's talking about came from Jones sitting down with Red Corner MMA once filming wrapped on this show called ALF Global. It's basically Russia's version of The Ultimate Fighter, and they brought Jones and Cormier in as opposing coaches to mentor rising fighters through team challenges and fights.
But the one thing I do know is that I made him cry in front of the world. I took him off of the list of being considered one of the greatest fighters of all time. He'll be even lower in the rankings of the greatest heavyweight of all time because my prospect, Gable Steveson, is going to be 3 times the champion Daniel Cormier ever was. And so he'll just always be in my shadow one way or another.
The show's producers knew exactly what they were doing, putting these two together. Their history is absolutely explosive, but nobody expected Jones to go this nuclear once the official cameras turned off. When they asked him about working alongside Cormier, Jones threw diplomacy out the window and delivered maybe the most brutal takedown of his rival we've ever seen on film.
Because for 3 years, it became, God, this guy's gonna punch me, I'm gonna punch him. It really was a nightmare looking back on it, if I'm being honest with you.
It was terrible.
But Jones painted a totally different picture when he compared this season to the previous one. Last time around, he was coaching with guys like Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal, and Yoel Romero. Despite those fighters having their own reputations for being intense and confrontational, Jones said the whole vibe was amazing. They actually hung out when the cameras weren't rolling, grabbed dinner together, built real connections that went way beyond the competition format.
We fought that first fight in Vegas. I won the first fight. Second fight in Anaheim. Dude, you started hitting me in the stomach. Like, I
had to do something because I was fighting like shit. Those first 2 rounds, I was like, what am I doing? I called a day of my life. And I was like, it worked out. Thank God.
Dude, you started throwing those shots to the body.
With Cormier, though, completely different story. According to Jones, the tension never let up. Every single interaction was loaded with all their baggage from the past. And Cormier apparently had zero interest in trying to make things easier. But Jones didn't stop there. He got really specific about how Cormier treated everyone else on the production.
But the last fight in the Apex, when you look back on it, I'm kind of bitter about that. We fought in front of 20,000 both times, and then to fight the Apex, it wasn't good.
It was like awkward because like, you know, what's funny is you hit me, I hit you, and you're boom, and you like literally hear the echoing of the punch. It was like, this is so weird. And then like, I hear your coach, I hear my coach. I'm like, it's like we're sparring.
Yeah, it was off, but it was kind of crazy because I felt like it didn't do justice to what the rivalry was.
I know.
Jones basically described Cormier as this guy who acts like he's royalty, surrounded by people kissing up to him constantly, throwing his weight around, and treating the crew like garbage. When filming stopped and everyone was just trying to chill between takes, Cormier would supposedly disappear and refuse to interact with the people actually making the show happen.
I've had a lot of rematches and instances with people, but this is the one that I appreciate the most.
This is where Jones really went for the throat. He's saying Cormier's whole public image, the friendly broadcaster, the beloved commentator, the devoted family man, it's all fake. Behind closed doors, according to Jones, you get the real Cormier, and it's not pretty. Then came the big question that everyone wanted answered. After spending all this time together in Thailand, was there any chance these two could finally bury the hatchet? Jones made it clear the answer is absolutely not, and he's putting all the blame on Cormier. Jones claims he tried multiple times to extend peace offerings while they were filming. He approached Cormier hoping that being away from their fighting careers might give them space to finally heal this thing, but Cormier shut down every single attempt, making it obvious he wants to keep this feud going forever. And why would Cormier do that? Money? According to Jones, their beef has been one of the biggest moneymakers in UFC history. Every pay-per-view, every media appearance, every social media post gets serious cash. Cormier has built a huge chunk of his broadcasting and podcasting career on being Jones's enemy. Walking away from that rivalry means walking away from a goldmine. Jones painted this as Cormier choosing profit over peace. The opportunity for reconciliation was right there. Cormier picked the paycheck instead. Then Jones brought up the moment that defines everything between them. He referenced UFC 214 where he knocked Cormier completely unconscious with that devastating head kick in round 3. Seeing Cormier motionless on the canvas remains one of the most replayed finishes ever, and Jones brings it up because in his mind, that's the final proof of who the better fighter is. What Jones conveniently left out of this rant is that the result got thrown out. He popped positive for an anabolic steroid called Turinabol, and the victory became a no contest. Cormier got his belt back, and that knockout Jones treats as his ultimate triumph officially doesn't even count as a win. But then Jones added this interesting twist to the whole rivalry. He mentioned Gable Steveson, this Olympic gold medal wrestler he's been working with. Jones predicted Steveson is going to completely surpass anything Cormier ever accomplished as a heavyweight champion, 3 times better than Cormier ever was. So even if Jones and Cormier never speak again, Jones plans to keep his rival in the shadows through this protege, who'll achieve everything Cormier couldn't. The interview exploded across every major MMA platform once it dropped. MMA Fighting ran extensive coverage, highlighting the most inflammatory quotes and putting them in context of their entire rivalry. MMA Mania focused on Jones claiming Cormier wants to stay enemies for life. Bloody Elbow called it proof that any hopes for friendship are permanently dead. Yahoo Sports added background about the AF Global show and what it means for both guys' media careers. Everyone agreed on one thing though. Whatever tiny chance existed for these two to make peace just got completely obliterated. The timing makes this even more ironic. Before filming started, Jones had actually posted optimistically on Instagram about having Cormier on the show. He thought maybe the experience could help them address their messed up relationship. That optimism got completely destroyed by what actually went down in Thailand. Cormier gave his own interview about the experience before Jones dropped these bombs. He told Red Corner MMA that being around Jones feels different now since he's retired from fighting. Without the threat of actually having to fight each other, Cormier said the nastiness had died down. He described their interactions as professional, admitting they argued constantly, but claiming they found ways to coexist without wanting to physically hurt each other. Cormier also revealed they discussed other ways to compete during filming. They argued about doing a boxing match, which Cormier said he'd be down for. But the option that got the most serious discussion was wrestling. Cormier challenged Jones to a wrestling match and guaranteed he'd win by technical fall 10-0. An outcome that would prove his dominance in the discipline that defined his career before MMA. This opens up the possibility their rivalry continues outside the octagon. Jones acknowledged the wrestling challenge during his interview, saying it would be interesting to see what happened, but he stopped short of actually accepting the match could happen. It probably won't bring closure either way. What makes this footage go viral isn't just the insults, though those are inflammatory enough to generate massive clicks and shares. It's the confirmation that after more than a decade, two men who dominated the same division at their absolute peaks still can't occupy the same space without everything turning poisonous. They filmed together for weeks. They were supposed to mentor young fighters, model professionalism, create compelling television. Instead, they left Thailand despising each other more than when they arrived. To understand why this footage hits so hard with MMA fans and casual observers, you need to understand the absolutely catastrophic history these two share. This isn't some fake rivalry cooked up by promoters to sell pay-per-views. This is genuine, toxic hatred built on public humiliation, physical violence, drug scandals, professional jealousy, and cheating accusations spanning over a decade. Every insult in that viral footage carries the accumulated weight of everything that came before. The first sparks ignited back in 2010 at UFC 21 in Anaheim. Jon Jones was this 22-year-old phenom, tearing through the light heavyweight division with violence and creativity the sport had rarely seen. His weird striking style, his crazy reach, his ability to finish fights from impossible positions marked him as a once-in-a-generation talent. Daniel Cormier was a two-time U.S. Olympian in freestyle wrestling, fighting in Strikeforce as a heavyweight with championship dreams of his own. His credentials were absolutely perfect. NCAA champion, Olympic team captain, undefeated pro record. Backstage at the event, Jones approached Cormier with what he later called a friendly bet, saying he could take the accomplished wrestler down. Cormier took this as disrespectful arrogance from some young punk who barely knew his name and seemed dismissive of his Olympic achievements. The exchange lasted maybe 60 seconds, but the wound festered for years. Each guy interpreted the interaction completely differently and let the resentment build. By 2014, the rivalry had turned into something absolutely toxic and out of control. Cormier had dropped to light heavyweight, beating Patrick Cummins and Dan Henderson to earn a title shot against Jones at UFC. The promotion smelled money in their hatred and scheduled multiple media events to exploit it. The trash talk between promotional appearances was even more vicious than their physical confrontation. In an off-air exchange caught by ESPN cameras, Jones escalated with a statement that chilled everyone who heard it. He said he would literally kill Cormier. These weren't promotional sound bites crafted by marketing teams. The hatred was real, visceral, and potentially dangerous. Both men seemed to mean exactly what they said. Their first fight went down at UFC 82 on January 3, 2015. Jones dominated for 5 brutal rounds, controlling the clinch, landing devastating elbows, outworking Cormier in nearly every exchange. All 3 judges scored it 49-46, a decisive and comprehensive victory. In the final seconds, Jones celebrated early and threw what many considered a cheap shot at Cormier, leading to a post-bell scuffle and a crotch chop directed at his beaten rival. After the fight, Jones told the media he hoped Cormier was crying somewhere. Then Jones's life completely imploded outside the octagon. In April 2015, Jones was involved in a hit-and-run accident in Albuquerque that injured a pregnant woman. Witnesses saw Jones flee the scene on foot, come back briefly to grab cash from his car, then run away again. Police found marijuana, drug paraphernalia, and condoms in his vehicle. The UFC stripped him of his title and suspended him indefinitely. Cormier capitalized on the opening, submitting Anthony Johnson at UFC E187 to claim the light heavyweight championship his rival had been forced to give up. A rematch got scheduled for UFC 200 in July 2016, one of the most anticipated cards in promotional history. Days before the event, Jones tested positive for estrogen blockers, substances commonly used to hide anabolic steroids, and got pulled from the card entirely. Cormier fought Anderson Silva as a replacement on short notice. The rematch both men and millions of fans wanted got delayed again, this time by Jones's apparent chemical cheating. The rematch finally happened at UFC 200 on July 29, 2017, and Jones delivered the most devastating moment of their entire rivalry. In the third round, he connected with a head kick that sent Cormier crashing to the canvas, unconscious before he even landed. The image of Cormier crumpled and motionless, with Jones standing over him in triumph, became one of the most iconic and replayed finishes in UFC history. It looked like definitive closure, but Jones tested positive for turinabol, an anabolic steroid, and the result got overturned to a no contest. Cormier was reinstated as champion. The knockout Jones considered proof of his superiority became officially just an asterisk, not a legitimate victory, but a tainted moment that would forever carry the qualifier of a failed drug test. Cormier has called Jones a cheater in virtually every interview since. The no contest added another corrosive layer to a rivalry already saturated with resentment. Cormier felt robbed of a clean loss. Even defeat would have been better than victory through disqualification, because at least defeat would have been honest. Jones felt robbed of a legitimate victory, convinced his physical dominance was real regardless of what any drug test claimed. Neither man has shown any willingness to let it go. Cormier retired in August 2020 after back-to-back losses to Stipe Miocic in their heavyweight trilogy. He transitioned to commentary and broadcasting, becoming a regular presence on UFC broadcasts and building a substantial media career as a podcaster and analyst. Jones vacated his light heavyweight title that same year, moving to heavyweight after years of dominance at 205 pounds. He eventually won the heavyweight championship in 2023 by submitting Sarl Gain in the first round. Even in retirement, Cormier couldn't escape Jones's shadow. Jones continued referencing their fights in every available interview, mocking Cormier's losses and claiming he permanently removed Cormier from any legitimate conversation about the greatest fighters of all time. Cormier responded through his podcast and commentary work, criticizing Jones's drug failures, his personal troubles, and his character. This is the context that gives the Thailand footage its devastating impact. When Jones says Cormier wants to be enemies for life because of how profitable it is, he's talking about more than a decade of mutual destruction monetized into content. Every pay-per-view, every interview, every social media exchange has generated revenue for both of them. Their hatred has been profitable in ways most rivalries never achieve. But Jones's claim in the viral footage is that Cormier refuses to move past it, even when the financial incentives are absent and the cameras are off. Jones claims he extended genuine peace offerings during filming, and Cormier rejected every single one. Whether that account is accurate or Cormier experienced those same interactions differently, the outcome is identical. They left Thailand as enemies. And the footage proves the rift has only gotten deeper. The Jones-Cormier rivalry dominates headlines and captures the imagination of MMA fans worldwide. But both men carry battle scars from other feuds that shaped their careers and psyches in profound ways. Understanding these parallel conflicts shows why reconciliation between Jones and Cormier might genuinely be impossible, and why one of them found peace with a former enemy while the other cannot. For Daniel Cormier, the rivalry that came closest to matching the Jones intensity was his heavyweight trilogy with Stipe Miocic. What makes this comparison particularly telling is how fundamentally differently it ended. Cormier and Miocic were genuine friends before they ever fought. They texted regularly about their lives, families, careers. Cormier visited Miocic's firehouse in Ohio for an interview segment, spending time with the firefighters Miocic worked alongside between fights. They genuinely enjoyed each other's company and had mutual respect. Then they got matched against each other for the heavyweight championship, and everything between them changed with the sudden violence of a car crash. Cormier described the Miocic rivalry as a nightmare. For 3 years, every interaction with his former friend got filtered through the inescapable knowledge that they would have to hurt each other as badly as possible. The friendship they had built beforehand made the violence more emotionally difficult to process. You can't punch someone you care about without carrying that weight afterward. Their first fight at UFC 26 in July 2018 saw Cormier knock out Miocic in the first round with a barrage of punches, becoming the UFC's simultaneous champion at light heavyweight and heavyweight. But Miocic felt denied an immediate rematch while Cormier pursued a super fight with Brock Lesnar that ultimately never happened. The delay bred resentment. The rematch at UFC 241 in August 2019 delivered one of the most remarkable comebacks in heavyweight history. Cormier dominated the early rounds, outworking Miocic with wrestling and dirty boxing in the clinch. But Miocic adjusted in the fourth round with devastating effect, targeting Cormier's body with brutal precision. The shots accumulated until Cormier could no longer absorb them, his defensive posture crumbling under the relentless assault. Miocic finished him by TKO to reclaim the title he had lost 13 months earlier. The rubber match at UFC 25-2 in August 2020 took place in an empty arena during the pandemic. The eerie silence of the apex amplified every punch and grunt. Miocic won by unanimous decision after 5 hard rounds, and Cormier retired afterward with tears in his eyes. The trilogy was marred by accusations of eye pokes from both sides. Miocic required retinal surgery after the first fight, and Cormier suffered a torn cornea in the decider. But both men acknowledged they pushed each other to their absolute limits. Despite the violence and accusations and physical damage, Cormier and Miocic emerged from their rivalry with respect intact. When they sat down together after Cormier's retirement to reflect on what they had built and what they had destroyed, the conversation was warm and genuine. The friendship was damaged, certainly, but it wasn't beyond repair. They found their way back to something resembling what they had before. This is the contrast that makes the Jones situation so striking and apparently hopeless. Cormier was able to find peace with a man who punched him in the liver until his body failed. He hasn't found peace with Jones. The difference can't be explained solely by fight outcomes or severity of violence. Something else separates these rivalries. For Jon Jones, the rivalry that preceded Cormier and established the template for how he handles conflict was with Rashad Evans. It offers another instructive comparison that illuminates the current impasse. Jones and Evans were teammates at Greg Jackson's legendary MMA gym in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Evans, already an established figure as a former UFC light heavyweight champion, took the young Jones under his wing. Then Jones publicly stated in an interview that he would fight Evans if the UFC demanded it. Evans felt betrayed. The pact in his mind was sacred, by even suggesting he would consider the matchup. Jones had violated an agreement between brothers. Evans left the camp and joined a rival gym in Florida. What had been friendship curdled into the kind of hatred that only emerges from wounded intimacy. Their fight at UFC 145 in April 2012 was one of the most anticipated grudge matches in MMA history. Jones dominated across 5 rounds, winning by unanimous decision while landing the kind of elbows and strikes that leave lasting damage. The bad blood simmered in every exchange, but unlike the Cormier rivalry, this one eventually healed. By 2016, Jones approached Evans backstage at a UFC event and told him he hoped they would always be cool. They hugged, and something shifted. In 2017, they met formally, signed gloves for each other, expressing mutual regard, and shared a meal as friends rather than enemies. When Evans was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame in 2019, Jones praised him publicly as a pioneer and class act who had shaped his career in ways he could never repay. Jones has proven he possesses the capacity to reconcile with a former enemy. He did it with Evans. The question hanging over the viral footage from Thailand is why he can't do it with Cormier, or why Cormier can't do it with him. According to Jones, the answer is money. Cormier has constructed a substantial portion of his post-fighting career on his identity as Jones's nemesis. The hatred generates content, drives engagement, provides endless material for podcasts and commentary, and social media interactions. Walking away from that rivalry means walking away from a significant revenue stream. According to Cormier's public statements over the years, the answer is simpler and more fundamental. Jones cheated. The failed drug tests, the positive samples, the overturned result at UFC 214. These aren't Cormier can forgive or forget. The knockout that Jones invokes in every interview exists in Cormier's mind as a tainted moment. Not a legitimate victory, but evidence of a cheater stealing something that should have been earned honestly. The Thailand footage won't resolve this schism. If anything, it hardens both men's positions and eliminates any remaining ambiguity. Jones believes he tried sincerely to make peace and got rejected. Cormier presumably will offer a different account of those same interactions. What comes next might be a wrestling match. Cormier has challenged Jones to compete on the mat where no drug testing exists and the only thing at stake is pride. Jones has expressed guarded interest without committing to a date or venue. If it happens, it would represent another chapter of a rivalry that refuses to end even as both men have moved past their fighting primes, or nothing may happen at all. They may continue conducting parallel interviews about each other, trading insults through the media, and monetizing the hatred that has defined both their careers since the viral footage from Thailand is simply the latest installment of a story that shows no signs of concluding. Jones won both fights. Cormier claims one was stolen from him through pharmaceutical cheating. Neither man will ever back down, and the footage that has captivated the MMA world proves it. The ALF Global show will eventually air, and audiences will witness some version of what transpired between these two men during their weeks together in Thailand. The production team captured their coaching sessions, their interactions with fighters, and presumably some of their arguments about boxing and wrestling matches. What the show can't capture is the private contempt that Jones described in his interview, the bossing around of staff members, the refusal to socialize, the rejection of every peace offering. Cormier hasn't yet responded directly to Jones's specific accusations from the Red Corner MMA interview. Given his platform as a broadcaster and podcaster, a response is likely coming. When it arrives, it will probably offer a starkly different account of the same events. That's the nature of their rivalry. They experience the same moments and come away with contradictory interpretations, each convinced the other is acting in bad faith. For fans who have followed this rivalry since its inception in 2010, the Thailand footage represents something melancholy. There was a time when reconciliation seemed possible. Jones rehabilitated his relationship with Rashad Evans. Cormier found peace with Stipe Miocic. Passage of time heals most wounds, even in combat sports where the wounds are literal. But Jones and Cormier appear to be the exception. They're two of the greatest fighters in UFC history, men whose legacies will endure long after they stop competing. They share a history that includes two of the most anticipated fights ever staged, and they can't stand each other. The viral footage confirms what many suspected: this rivalry ends only when one of them dies. Until then, every interview, every podcast, every chance encounter will carry the weight of everything they did to each other. Jones knocked Cormier unconscious. Cormier watched that knockout get erased from the official record. Neither man will ever forget.